As we mentioned before the break, one of the more high-profile executive races in our region this fall will be in Westchester County, where Republican Rob Astorino is seeking a third term in office. Astorino, who was the Republican nominee for governor in 2014 and may run again, recently vetoed a bill known as the Immigrant Protection Act, which would codify what county police can and cannot do when dealing with immigration cases and undocumented immigrants. Astorino has cited public safety concerns, and he insists that the bill would make Westchester a sanctuary city, a claim that, or a sanctuary county, a claim that none of the 10 county legislators who voted for the bill, including 2 Republicans, have ever made. In fact, they say it's not a sanctuary county bill. Astorino is also arguing that if the bill becomes law, MS-13 gang members will flood the county. I asked him about that and about the common thread between his veto of the Immigrant Protection Bill and his long-running fight with the federal government over affordable housing in a half-hour interview airing this weekend on the FiOS 1 Hudson Valley program Newsbreakers. You said the act will put the word on the street that Westchester is a safe haven for undocumented immigrants who are involved in criminal activities. We don't want that. We don't want that at all. You can see what Nassau and Suffolk are going through right now with their MS-13 gangs and elsewhere. That is not what we want. We do not want to attract them here. Now, putting aside the fact that there's an MS-13 issue on Long Island, despite the fact that no jurisdiction on Long Island is a sanctuary city or a sanctuary county, you're really using the worst element of a population there in argument against a bill that seeks to protect the larger population there. It's the equivalent, it strikes me as being the equivalent of saying we shouldn't build a mosque here because that'll increase the risk of terrorism, or we should reject an Italian social club because that'll bring the mob here, or that Mexico's bringing us our rapists.
So are you defending MS-13 members?
I'm saying you're using them as the worst possible example of the kind of undocumented immigrants that you say would be attracted to Westchester.
You're defending MS-13.
I'm questioning your use of MS-13 as a cudgel against this IPA.
I most certainly will defend that.
You're
because
saying that
MS-13 are
more
ruthless.
Undocumented immigrants will come to Westchester, that MS-13 will come?
MS-13 are ruthless killers. Did I just hear you right that you're defending MS-13 members?
I'm questioning your use of MS-13 as a reason to argue against the IPA.
And B, they will go where they know that they should be shielded.
Well, they're on Long Island right now, and they're not being shielded there.
They're in Nassau. They're in Queens, and what do you think the next step might be if they knew that law enforcement?
That's already a sanctuary city by your argument.
Look, I didn't say that, but I said that. But you know when I followed? The sergeant of the Westchester Hispanic Law Enforcement Association, who knows that that is very possible.
And if he was sitting in this chair, I would question him about that. But you don't.
But wait, so you're going to presume to know more than career law enforcement?
You're staining an entire community based on the actions of a small.
Well, I don't see. This is, here's the problem today with what's going on. I didn't say anything there. You just said those kind of things. You're the one that defended MS-13. Nobody should be defending MS-13.
We don't want to see MS-13
The undocumented
gangs
community
here.
doesn't want MS-13 defended. They're ruthless killers. You get initiated into MS-13 only if you kill somebody.
You're implying, though, that if the IPA passes, that MS-13 is going to come barreling into Westchester County. That's not a fear-based attack here?
No, it's reality. You would have more of a likelihood that they would go, and any criminal would go, to a location where they know there's not going to be cooperation, where they're going to get rights over and above, that they will be shielded. I mean, that's the whole argument here. This is not, and I'll go back to my first statement, this is not about the 99.9% of undocumented who are here, who are living peacefully, who are extraordinarily good citizens.
You're just using the other 0.01% as an argument.
You're damn right I am, because these are the people who are going to do damage. What about the burglar? Let me ask you this. Hold on a second.
You've also said your sanctuary county claim that the Justice Department could withhold $12 million in grants to Westchester County.
They have said that.
You lost more than that in grant money fighting HUD.
Yeah. HUD chose to do it. I didn't lose it.
Well, you were contesting HUD in a way that you're not willing to contest
which is exactly what we would do if we became. We would have no standing in court. So now all of a sudden you're afraid
of losing money from D.C. where it was a principled stand in the...
I'm saying, first of all, public safety should be number one. Not even a question about it. And if we're going to lose $13 million a year in public safety grants, you're damn right I'm going to try to protect it as best I could.
How much money has New York City lost because it's a sanctuary city?
Not yet, but they certainly might. Because they've just defined what sanctuary is, which I told you before.
There's an injunction against the executive order. It's held up in court. There's a nationwide injunction.
You're getting a lot of things mixed up.
The two biggest social issues of your administration so far have been the housing case and the IPA.
We won the housing.
Okay, we'll get to that. The housing case and the IPA.
Yeah.
Is it just a coincidence that in both of those cases you've positioned yourself against the marginalized community? The immigrant community when it comes to the IPA, lower income people, people of color when it comes to the housing settlement?
And now you're doing what I'll label the far left does all the time. You're playing the race card, you're playing the gutter politics that anyone would do, and I wouldn't expect that of you, number one.
I'm asking a question about the positions that you've taken on the two biggest social issues.
Defending the county? I will defend the county on no matter what issue needs to be defended if it's in the best interest of the county. The HUD issue, unquestionably, and we ended up winning it, we fulfilled our obligations. We built almost 900 instead of the 750 that we're supposed to build. And so that went well over and above what we were supposed to do. So that wasn't against housing. But when the federal government stepped in and said, we want to control zoning, we want to have a say in what you do, and we made accusations which are completely unfounded, you're darn right I'm going to stand up for our community. On the issue of public safety, when there are members of the board who have a very misguided and dangerous bill over the objections of law enforcement, you're darn right I'm going to stand up there.
So it's just a coincidence
they can label
that in both
it any
of these
way
cases,
they choose to label it.
It's just a coincidence that in both of these cases, it's the more marginalized community.
Isn't it interesting that you refuse to acknowledge what I said before about the executive order, which I left on the books, which stated what I just said to you, that everyone should not fear, nobody should fear about coming out into public or having if you're a witness to a crime or a victim of a crime, that we have a policy on our book that we do not question or arrest. So we do give services. So that went over and above because it's not the narrative that you want.
You can catch my complete interview with Rob Astorino. It takes up the entire half hour on this weekend's Newsbreakers, which airs all weekend on FiOS 1 Lower Hudson Valley. Still with Phil. Wow. Really?
Where do we begin?
Well, you tell me.
Well, you know, I have to say, I don't believe that, first of all, I have to say that I'm tired of this conflation of illegal immigration with immigration. The Immigration Protection Act is a misnomer in the first place. This isn't about people who have come here illegally. And we have to, you know, I don't understand why we consider this to be some beleaguered community when they're here illegally in the first place.
Well, the argument would be that there would be concerns among legal immigrants as well in an environment that's somewhat hostile to undocumented immigrants.
Yeah, but I don't think there's any proof of that. I mean, unless I'm missing something here. I have to, you know, I find myself kind of defending the county executive on this issue.
Well, it's been fun to have you on the show.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, from the standpoint that, you know, what he's really talking about are criminals, and he's not going after, sort of a stereotypical, beleaguered person who is trying to make a living. He's going after people that are in jail and trying to get and cooperate with the federal government, which includes ICE, to make sure that we have people here or not who are here illegally, and what to do when we find out that they are after they've committed crimes.
The invocation of MS-13 as an argument?
Well, I grant you that was I think that's thrown in as a scare thing. But what do I know? I don't know. I don't know how this opens the door. But I also don't see how it's such a persecution thing against the innocent. I just don't. And I also just one other thing. There are immigration issues that are really important, and I think that people generally should be behind immigration, before immigration, for very practical reasons in this country. For example, you'll have gray hair too someday, and you'll want to have Social Security checks, and you're going to want to get on Medicare. And how are we going to do that unless we get lots of new citizens into this country legally, to get them in legally, to contribute? And I think, this is where Trump, I think, has made a misstep. He wants to cut those green cards in half. Well, I say we double them and make sure we get highly skilled people in here. I'm not the only one who says this. Well, so that our economy can grow to pay for all the old people they're going to need.
Let's bring this back to our earlier conversation about the Trump effect, because this is a national issue that's sort of festooned upon a local race. Right.
You saw it. First of all, you should emphasize to your audience, this was a veto of. This is it's a veto override. Okay, so there are not enough votes to.
They would need one more override
vote to
override it.
Right. So what were you saying again? You said
Well,
something.
it's again a national issue that's playing out in a local race,
right.
and the Democrats in Westchester did this intentionally.
Well, it's very interesting. If I'm going to criticize Astorino, I would say that the optics look bad on this, right during this whole Charlottesville thing.
Yes.
And minute I saw that there was a press release about this coming out, that there was going to be this press conference, veto override press conference right in the middle of the Trump stuff, but. Every time the Democrats do one of these, we're going to fight against Astorino thing, they bring out all the protesters and everything else too. So, this is his way of at least, getting his time. And he was on your show, which is great too.
Most important question.
Yeah.
How'd I do in that clip?
I thought you brought him out. I thought you got him to let his hair down.
You're allowed to come back. Welcome anytime. Phil Reisman,
Yeah.
as always, thank you so much. I always enjoy
All right,
talking to
Andrew.
you. Up next, out with the old, in with the new. Part of the new bridge is opening this week, the new Tappan Zee Bridge. We'll look back at the history of the Tappan Zee and preview the brand spanking new Mario Cuomo Bridge.